Hello and welcome to another episode of Off The Ruck with me, John Ferguson. And today we are joined by our very favorite South African, a little bit worse for wear today, slash when you catch this episode, just because of the result. And you've all seen it by now, a historic win at altitude at Ellis Park, breaking a 62-year drought. 14 years since the Australians have managed to claim any sort of win on South African turf. It is really quite amazing and historic for an Australian perspective. But today it's all about being very, very putting some perspective on it, being very humble. And it doesn't mean squat if we can't back it up. I'm not saying that we need to win next week, because a injured Springboks team is going to be an extremely insurmountable task, especially when they got dealt with in that fashion at home when they thought they had us. So that's why I've brought in Harry Jones. Harry, our favorite South African, please give us your thoughts on the game, because I know it's still a bit raw, but we are trying to put things in perspective. So how are you going with that perspective?
Yeah, how's it, John? So I'm in Johannesburg. I was one of those guys who went to the game and suffered. There was this period of time, I almost divide the game into three parts where everything was wonderful. The beer tasted good. I had one pocket of Druvos, I had one pocket of Biltong. We had the Gees going, the spirit, the mana, I think Kiwis call it. And so it felt
Absolutely.
like nothing could stop us. It was the music was pumping. It was all aligned. It just felt like this is going to be a proper spanking, and everything was great. The second stanza was more of a where things slowed down for the Boks. Things sped up a little bit for the Wallabies. Strangely, the Springbok game managers started playing like they were behind by 20 and 10 instead of being ahead by 10 and then 3. And then the final stanza was demoralization, capitulation, a wet, limp sail, quiet. There was one Aussie in my section who got louder and louder. And yeah, and then there's the aftermath, which is always the curse, but I still stay. I always tell everyone, go to the park, go out of the game, go out to the games, buy the tickets. You got to support the sport. But when you lose in that fashion, and you are in Hillbrow, and you are trying to vector in with your driver, and you're in, parts where you don't want to be, and it's sort of the time is clicking on. It's about 9 p.m. You've done the press conferences. You just go, why did I do this to myself again? And then you counterbalance that with the joy that you must feel. I mean, I've been riding on the Roar for a long time now, and I have deep friendships with Australians, but also Australian rugby. I knew how big a deal that was. I saw Joe Schmidt in the corridor skipping. I'm not lying. I think he was avoiding a core, but we'll say he was skipping. Fraser McWright, eyes alight. Laurie Fisher bumped into in a stairwell, and he was just like, we could not stop those tries from kick chase, but then the kick chase stopped. And so we thought we could work our way back in. Will Skelton stumbling into the media room, because there was some more beer in there. There was a joy, and you had to factor that in and congratulate, tip the hat. We've won really well. You also have to lose well. And losing well, I think, is something that the Boks are really comfortable with. I never saw Rassie more focused, more humble, more ready. I think it's going to be a springboard for the rest of the season. You always listen to your coaches better when you've been humbled. And coaches also pick more, I'd say, solidly instead of exotically on selections when they've been pants pulled down, given a real hiding at home. It was shocking. It was embarrassing. I was filled with shame, and I think most people were in the crowd, but also wider than that. Just today, talking to people, and they go, okay, we have to fix this now. Like, we have to fix this, because this is reminding us too much of Alistair Coetzee era, where we played too much rugby and got found out. So yeah, it's all those emotions, but I don't want any of that to swamp. Congratulations, fighting spirit, whatever, everything I just said, opposite for the Wallabies. Never gave up, never give in, kept going. Down 0-22, it seemed a bit like they could have kind of packed it in. Didn't. Defended without infringing. Stuck in the 22, only 3 or 4 penalties total. You'll correct me, but something like that. Not even a hint of a card. I mean, Remember the days when Wallabies got a card every match and where 12 penalties was the minimum. So that. Secondly, guys like James O'Connor, your boy, growing into the role. Seiki, not good at first, was very much a part of the nil 22. And then almost
Very
as
sure.
James O'Connor's fortunes rose, your team started doing better. So
Mm,
all of that, and this tactical stuff, but I felt it was more of a spirit win and a
mm,
spiritual loss. I didn't think it was so much about the X's and O's in this one. I thought it was one team thinking, now we got them, it's done. Let's drive it in and let's score 5 more tries. And the other team saying, no, what we're gonna do now is humble you, and we're gonna bring you down to earth. And Harry Wilson, embodying that as a captain.
mm. Yeah, no, he really did, and he might have cost him a knee or a hamstring or something to be able to go that far at altitude at Ellis Park and score that try. It looked like a very non-event, that try in the end, and then all of a sudden he was stumbling and he was off. So we hope for him to hear good news, and perhaps by the time this comes out, we've already heard good news. But as you said, truly embodied that Australian spirit. Just to follow up on your points, because there's a few points in your introduction there that I want to touch on. But number one is that is the seventh test in the row, so the longest streak since 2017 that the Wallabies have had receiving no cards. That's what this match marks. So it is a big reason, and you referenced that quite aptly. Another discipline factor that I wanted to reference was also that the Australians only conceded 4 penalties to your 10, which is a ridiculous difference and rift. Because, as you say, previously we've been very ill-disciplined, and going back to the Dave Rennie and Eddie Jones era, we were averaging 14 to 10 a game. So that makes a big difference. But I think that yes, James O'Connor, and we heard Razzie Erasmus. He called the performance. I think he called the performance dog shit. I don't think he called the players dog shit. I think he called the
Yeah.
performance dog shit. And Sia Khaleesi was obviously very hurt and a very prideful captain, and that becomes very touching and very hard to watch as a South African, and also as an opposing fan, but also as a neutral rugby loving fan. So, they'll be back, no doubt. So we're not out here trying to spin out, just like we're not trying to spin out and overhype the Wallaby. I want to quote some words from yourself back to you, not necessarily words, but we're talking about the Boks stocks, because we're here to talk about the South Africans, because that's why we've come to you. Want to get your take. So you've put on the up players that didn't play. So Pollard, Damien Dialande, Arge Snyman, and Elrich Lowe. And then you've got Steady, Eben Etzebeth, Peter Steph Toy, and Malcolm Marks. And then we've got Fine, Jesse Creel, Wilco Lowe in the front row, Sia Khaleesi, who we just hope that he hasn't sustained anything serious. I mean, he played on, but you never know how these things go. And then Kurtley Aronsar. So let's talk about the positive, like the ups and the steadies and the fines. Um, I think that naturally, when a number 10 plays poorly and you've got the caliber of a number 10 like Andre Pollard to be able to bring on, that's naturally the kind of the energy. But I thought some of those other picks that you said were up were really interesting as well, because I think there's been a lot of criticism leveled at players like Ludiaga. So do you want to take us through why those are the players that you've picked out?
Yeah, it's interesting in life where your absence can sometimes make you look better by your absence.
Mm,
Okay, so if the Boks had been scheduled to play the All Blacks at Ellis Park this weekend, they would not have picked this team. This is
mm,
not an sign of extreme disrespect, but there was a little bit of lack of respect in the sense that if you were ordering it properly, you would have taken care of business first at Ellis Park and then adjusted in Cape Town. And so there was a bit of a problem there, and the disconnect. The other
And
thing
sorry to
is if
interrupt you,
you
Harry, but that's what you and I thought they would do before they released the
right,
side. That's what
right.
you said. You named the side. So
And I think that's what Rossi was referencing when he said dog shit. He meant himself too. He said the coaches, and he must have reiterated that 5 times in the press room that he was taking it on himself as someone who failed. He was dog shit. And when he referenced to selection as part of that, which is there was no plan B on the bench. So I'm not even saying you have to start Pollard, but if you start Lubbock, you have to have a Pollard balance. If you start Pollard, then you put someone else on the bench like Sasha as maybe a change of flavor. But going in this particular direction with Mani Lubbock, probably telling him to be free, let's run up 50 on the Aussies, and then something goes wrong on the en route from 22-0 to 50-0, doesn't work, something goes wrong. Mani's not your best shapeshifter guy. He's not really a guy who can tell the guys around him. He's not a loud guy like Andre. Andre is basically one of the captains. He would have gathered everyone around and said, hey, we're 22, now we're 22-5. Hey, we're 22-12. Listen, guys, we're not going to score much more the rest of the game. I think we're shooting for 30 maybe. But these other guys, I'll be fucked if they score one more point, right? So you take a front runner approach. I'm going to kill the ball, eat 20 seconds here, to eat 20 seconds there. I'm going to rob them of these 45 seconds. The clock is our friend. What are we doing? Why are we trying to play intercept rugby? No, we're not playing sevens. We're going to make everything unfriendly and dark and horrible and sinister for the next 20 minutes. And we'll score 3, and maybe they will score 5, but that's about it. And you keep doing that, you win the game. Like, that's classic front runner rugby. Mani started playing at 22-12 as if the score was 12-22. And he doesn't really have a go-to change, right? So the selection was poor. And you do wonder about, because nothing would have changed on the beginning. The kicks were from Williams, actually. Chases were from Ibn Etzebeth. They were from Kurtley Arendse. So if you stick Pollard in there, he does the same thing, probably even better. So that happens. But it's when you get up that it would have been different. That's when a seasoned 80 cap guy does what, a 65 cap James O'Connor does. He grows into the match. That's what a Nick White does with 80 caps. He tells you, hey guys, no, let's do this and this. Change on the field. Williams and Lubbock don't have that voice yet. Fossey doesn't have that voice from the back. So now you got a 9, 10, 15 that's undercapped, 20, 20, 20 caps against 65, 80, and whatever Tom Wright has, a seasoned guy as well. And so then you run into that problem. Then you go, well, who's on my bench? Maybe I can bring in, a solid game manager. Let's bring in Faf and Andre. Oh, wait, they're not there. It's Willemse, who's basically another excitement machine. And he's also going to be throwing offloads for no apparent reason sometimes. So I just think the constitution of the team bespoke the lack of respect that the Boks had. And this is something that's wrong and bad. And it's something I did. I'm part of that. I feel bad. I think there was complacency, overconfidence. So that he was echoing that when Rusty was saying that, he wasn't saying any particular player. He wasn't bashing Mani. Mani was picked because someone said, I think we can be free and have fun and forget about conversions and penalty goals. Let's go and try to score 5, 6, 7 tries. And then in the middle of it, when it was oh shit, what have we done? There wasn't really the tools upon which to turn. Whereas the Wallabies could go down 22. It was obviously not Joe Schmidt's plan, and not part of some tactical genius. It was like it was more like, okay, gut check, everyone. Hey, Rabbit O'Connor, have you been in the wars? Yes, I was playing these Boks in 2011. What about you, Nick White? I've been in every war. And then, Tom Wright, sort of a amnesia guy. Whatever he did wrong, he dropped a couple of kicks. He's going to forget it. He's just going to go the next one. So I think there was an ability for them to flex, even not using Tainted Bed, without going down into a problem. Whereas the Boks were kind of in a cul-de-sac of going, whoa, now what? We're not set up. So that's why I named Archie Sneeman, because one of the keys to Bomb Squad is you have 4 to 5 locks out of 23 players. 23% of your team is the biggest guys. It's a big team. This time around with a 5-3 bench and Franco Mustard, not a big lock, is your only cover. Quacha Smith, not a line-out target. What are you doing there exactly? You're really kind of being a small team. And so the other one is, I think, so Pollard on management, Archies Neyman on size and heft. And then you think about a guy like Eldritch Lowe, who's injured, coming back, a direct 8, a guy who can run into and over Harry Wilson, Fraser McWright. Instead, Sia first time at 8, playing in the trams, Peter Steff playing in the trams, where was the up the gut? You know, the pick and go looked good, but then at some point it didn't happen anymore. So I think that's why I'm going with that hard edge. And Damon Delende versus Andre Esterhazen, it's a difficult one because Andre probably had a lot of highlights, but I kind of didn't like his highlights. I thought that we needed to see more Andre setting a ruck, smashing into people, but being a ruck target. There was too much no ruck ball in the beginning. And then in the end, much quicker ruck for the Boks than the Wallabies, by the way. But there wasn't enough of a setup where you smash 3 meters away from your ruck cleaner so they get there in time and you build the next one. There was a lot of 7 meter, 10 meter, 12 meter rucks that no one could get to. They were already out on their feet. Louis de Jager was a zombie. There's great video, which I did on X. You can see where he is literally just playing patty cake on people. He's just running around. He's going to fall down on 25 minutes in. So that's why you play a bomb squad is you say, hey, opening pack, empty your tanks. It's okay because I'm running in 6 guys who can come in. They had to wait on Mostert. By the time Mostert came in, the game was already, you're chasing the game. Here is an offload mag. He led the ERK in offloads. So
Yeah.
you can, he's a change dimension. Kubus Visa is a big, animal that they had on the bench that could have been used as a sort of facsimile of Elrich Low. And
Mm,
if Rossi can make friends with even Ruiz's dad, but maybe Ruiz could have been on. But you want someone who can punch holes the way that Harry Wilson was. Right
mm.
over the gut, post pillar, pick and go. And so all that combined for my stocks rising list.
Mm. No, that's very good, and I think you've mentioned a lot of a bit of a few of the stocks sinking as well in Lud and etc. One name that I wanted to mention that you didn't name in your list there for up or down was Marco van Staden. I thought, despite his time off off with I think it was a HIA, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
I felt like he didn't really feel like he fit in anywhere with this pack. I don't know if that's the back row combination that didn't quite work, but I only remember seeing him when he got penalized. So for me, is 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 that another person to consider when you recalibrate the back row, or do you just think the calibration will work if the rest of the puzzles working together? Because for me, I just didn't see him, but maybe I wasn't seeing what you were seeing.
Yeah, Michael van Staden, nicknamed here Eskom of the power utility company, is known for his power in the carry. But he's usually off the bench. He's usually part of the bomb squad, in
Yeah.
fact. So here, so Archie, Marco come on, and it's sort of like this energy guy. You know what you get from them. It's very simple and blunt force trauma. I think he didn't have that. I don't know exactly why. There's some talk about that the new incoming fitness coach did a dead leg, and that the timing again is based around Eden Park. So we're going to dead leg them here at altitude, 3 weeks, 9 weeks together, but 3 weeks of ridiculous. Everyone looked skinny. They looked a bit, they looked dead legged. So maybe that affected Marco. He's a definitely a high
He's a
energy
big
guy. He's
man.
like a dog you have that doesn't know how to stop running. So it's almost like you don't need to make him train too much because he
Yeah.
trains like
He'll
a
do it
maniac.
himself. Yeah.
So he might not have been the right fit for this one. That's back to
Mm.
selection. I didn't give him one way or the other because I felt like he also did have some good carries.
Yep.
And I felt like the corporate responsibility of losing the breakdown, being bullied at the breakdown by the Australians, wasn't on Marku. I thought it was more the selection of the 8 in concert with a non-bomb squad and the fact that the loose forwards were positioned across the field. And it seemed like they were anticipating that they were going to be attacking the breakdown from a defensive. Instead, the Boks were trying to go wide to wide to wide all the time.
Mm.
So I just don't know if Marco knew where to go. Where did he fit in? And
Can I just
so I didn't
pick up on
grade him
something that you
down. Yeah.
said there? You used the word bullied, and Razzie Erasmus used it as well. And I think that is a word that Australians would be very reticent and very tentative to use with the Springboks. Do you feel like that actually happened? Do you feel like we actually managed to bully you at times at the breakdown? Because again, I would never use that word off the bat. Because it's kind of terrifying to think about the retribution coming our way, But is that how you felt?
Uh, but we're but we're very sensitive about anyone even coming close to almost bullying us.
Okay. Yeah.
If you like, if we're having a fight and you landed 2 punches and I landed 6, I would say you bullied me because you landed 2. But
Yeah.
my point is like, we bullied you in the scrums. Didn't get
Oh
a lot
god,
of pay
and I
for it.
thought you guys would have got more pay out of it, honestly. And
We
it's kind
didn't
of
get a
like
lot of
us
pay
throughout the Lion
because,
series. We
yeah,
just didn't get enough.
but we couldn't get the line out that's ensuing. So what you get, a scrum penalty that just gives you an opportunity to have a line out, then we lose the line out. Number two, I thought that in general, gain line, smash and grab. Nah, I thought Will Skelton didn't get much forward. I thought it was remarkable how he was pushed back. I thought
Mm,
Etzebeth was really a monster. And I thought there was plenty there. Marks,
mm.
I saw him blow Will Skelton off of a ruck, and
Yeah,
I'd never seen that before.
yeah. No,
But
he was
I'm
a
talking
man
about
possessed.
the breakdown as a whole.
Mm,
I think you did bully. I think it's more about, maybe it's a weird word to use. I just felt like your acceptance of pain was greater. You went to darker places. You were like, wrestling in the dark for a knife, and you got the knife every time.
that's
And
Shakespearean.
we were acting like, are we having a little tussle here? Can we do jiu-jitsu rules? Is there a referee? Like, I think, be first.
Mm,
Even if you're going to be wrong, be strong.
mm.
And I felt like that was the lesson of the line. So that's where the battle hardenedness of playing the likes of Maro Itoje probably came into to help you. But it wasn't a Will Skelton story. He wasn't even a
No,
story in this match.
no,
It
no.
was
He was
more
kept very
like
quiet.
it was more like the rabbit, maybe rabid. You were more rabid at the breakdown.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
And I think you highlighted Eben Etzebeth. I was quite impressed with how Nick Frost met the challenge of Eben Etzebeth, because if anything, it was Eben versus Frost as opposed to the big heavyweight fight that we wanted to see between Skelton and Eben. But then I want to touch on the, the Springboks defense, because a lot's been said about the Wallabies defense, and I just want to get your take here, because you guys tackled at 81%. We tackled at 88%. It's not the wet. We weren't getting the benefit of that. The best tackling percentage that we had throughout the last tests in 2025 was 92% against the British and Irish Lions in Sydney in the wet. And now we tackled the second best that we've tackled all year in this test. Um, how did you view that? How James O'Connor managed to find that space on the outside? Did you feel like you guys were actually able to run your proper dog leg recovery defense? Because Edville van der Merwe was so close to intercepting that ball. I believe it was him on the wing, or maybe it was Curtly Anarissa. Again, you said that even the South African commentators get them mixed up. So off the bat, waking up and watching it early morning, I'm a little bit confused about which one it was. But for the Max Jorgensen try, there was a scrum cap player that was so close to intercepting that try. But nonetheless, James O'Connor threw that pass a fair few times, and we managed to get a fair bit of pay out of it. Do you see that changing, or is that just being more accurate about how you space your defenders?
That's a good question because that's at the heart of how the Wallabies scored so many tries, is the ability to unlock a defense that's been very Fort Knox type, for years now. It's obviously a Jerry Flannery defense, not a Jacques Nienaber. Probably lacks a little bit on the barge that leads up to the delivery. So maybe Nick White was getting cleaner ball as the game wore on. They got to James O'Connor in a little bit, even off a second earlier. Just a second earlier can be a big thing for a 10.
Mm,
James O'Connor is the only Aussie fly off that could be picked at all, besides maybe, I don't know who, Quade Cooper maybe, that knows how to run behind forward pods in such a way that he's hidden and then avoid the inside help so he doesn't get snagged by the Marco van Staden or Sia Kulisi, good dominant
mm,
tackles. And
mm,
then he's able to release and do the harbor bridge to the right. That
mm,
works, and that is a thing that if you nail it just right, and the All Blacks couldn't do it, Damien McKenzie couldn't do it, because it's actually a very interesting skill to be James O'Connor and seeing so many defenses over the years and play Northern Hemisphere. It's just a lot of battle scars, and he was able to know as the game wore on because he was shaky at first. He's found a way to hide behind that forward pod, that might be fronted by a guy like Nick Frost or Angus Bell or somebody, and deliver that on time. But he first did it by doing a bit of a wiggle, a bit of a bunny hop, and got into a good space, then he could see it. I agree with you that there was still fine margins, and that if they look back on that and another day they throw the same pass, maybe Curtly Aronson does get it. And then suddenly the game's different because interceptions are such a weird thing in rugby. They're literally like a 14-point play sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's right. I think James has no fear. That's helpful. He wouldn't have been deferential like maybe a Tom Liner would have been. Maybe obviously bringing Tane Edmed on. Although in a funny moment, the stadium announcer did say that Max Jorgensen's try was scored by Tane Edmed. So and I was thinking, and my neighbor and I go, "What?" Because they all knew I'm a Tane Edmed guy. And they're like,
How many
"Tane
castles
scored." I
have you
go,
had? How much bourbon have you had at that point?
and I go, really? That is definitely not Tane. I mean, I'm just looking at the body wiggle. I knew it wasn't him. That was Max Jorgensen special. But no, I think you're right that he did find that space. Kudos to him. We can look from the box side and we have a lot of alibis and excuses and things to get better, but that's fine. I mean, the thing about a rush defense is it always does offer you space. In 2018, when it was bedding in, England exploited that, huge scores, lots of tries. It felt like that to me. I felt like, oh, Edville probably is still learning when to bite, make the good read. But then on watch, I saw that both wings were on an island too much. All the damage had been done earlier because no one got to James and hit him. They just needed to hit him much more simultaneous with the pass while he's kicking, a second late, whatever. Had to hit him, never did. Never really put a glove on him. And that gave him more and more confidence. And he is a big game player. James O'Connor is one of the best rugby players that Australia has ever produced. Should have 150 caps. He's just one of those guys. He's one of him, And so he won his personal matchup with Mani Lubbock by 7 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't without its faults. He definitely started that game with a bit shaky, but then again, as you've mentioned, it's about how you grow into a game and how you shake off those aspects. And none better than Scottish fly half Finn Russell knows how to shrug a shoulder and turn the other cheek and say, "Let's move on with the next job." Without having to predict a squad, because by the time this comes out on Monday evening, Razzie Erasmus may have just gone back to the well and named a side on Monday night. But what do you expect? What are you expecting from Razzie Erasmus selection wise? And then I'd like to pick your brain quickly from an opposition perspective. What you may see from Joe Schmidt.
Okay, so if we are to believe Rassi, and he actually, for all his faults, is actually a pretty honest guy. Maybe his honesty sometimes is what gets him in trouble because he doesn't dissemble well enough. But he said that the Cape Town team had already been picked and had been picked, when they picked the Joburg team. So let's just extrapolate from that. That tells us that there would be many differences, and that's at the root of the problem, is that they pre-selected round 1 and round 2, which is a bit cocky. And it's this idea that there's no fixed 9, no one owns the shirt, there's no incumbency at 9 and at 10 as well. That we're doing a fiction here. We're saying they're all 3 the same. And then at 15. So those 3 are the revolving selections. Willemse, Fassi at 15, Andre, Sasha, and Mani at 10, Grant, Morne van den Berg, or Kubus Reinach at 9. No other team in the top 4, 5, 6 has such an uncertainty around 9, 10, and 15.
We don't have the
There are
luxury.
and I think maybe we don't either. And then maybe
Mm.
that one of the big revelations for us was, I probably do need to sort of have some incumbency at my 9 and 10. Maybe it's 15 where I can play around between those 3 because they're all like Riverboat gamblers, and that's okay at 15. Maybe you want that at 15 sometimes.
Mm.
But I think so. I think my interpretation of that would be that maybe it wasn't clear that it was going to be Andre Pollard starting at 10, paired up with maybe a Kubas Reinach who'll be 37, the next World Cup. So not maybe you're the guy you're grooming, but just get the win. And maybe even LaRue comes in at 15 instead of 2 guys that he name checked as lacking confidence, Willemse and Fassi. So maybe you have the old guard that goes back to 2015 semifinal, Pollard LaRue, That's like basically doing the James O'Connor thing back at you. And then Kubas Reinach, who's been playing forever in many, many weathers and situations. It'll be a heavy pitch in Cape Town. And you say, let's kick until Max Jorgensen, Tom Wright, and Su Ali'i demonstrate to us that they can catch that greasy ball while we're smashing them for a long time. I'm talking an hour. And just, I don't care if the fans boo. I don't care if the fans cheer more when you wing it. Don't do it. Just do that, because it's the law of numbers that makes kick chase work. You don't do it 3 times and hope to get 2 out of 3. You do it 10 times, 15 times, and hope to get 5. And 5 is enough to win a game, because when you regain a kick, you're just in a driver's seat. So that's the first set of picks. I think the bench is where maybe it's even more important. I think Volkolo did a great job at scrum, but having someone like Vincent Koch coming up behind you at tight head, maybe Bongi and Mostert and Kwacha are just showing signs of age. So you stick in people that are insanely ready to go. Kubas Visa, who you haven't seen that much of, is that kind of guy. He has one way. He's like Jasper, but bigger. He's older. He's a younger brother. Damien will be right, and Damien Delende acts as an extra loose forward against your 10. So that's where you'd see a lot of so the whole rush defense is based on I rob you of time to decide. And so if you give a player like James O'Connor too much time, he's going to look better. Ikitau too. But if you always say that I'm robbing you of that, and Delende is very good at that, it does squeeze everything. That makes Jesse look better, and that makes the wings look better. So it's a sort of a cascading effect. Andre Esterhuizen's a good player, but he's not as nimble or quick to get to the 10 and the 12 combination on defense.
And just doesn't have as good a connection with Jesse Creel, who I thought wasn't as good without his partner in crime, Damien Diolandi, without him inside of him, obviously conceding 2 penalties early in the second half. So if you gel those two guys together, they know their games inside out. That worries me. And I mean, from a Wallabies perspective, with the injury to Dylan Peach, he's be out with a jaw injury. I have very little doubt about that. Harry Wilson probably nursing that leg for at least a week. So I think you could probably see with a Valentini, if he comes back in, you probably see him slot straight back into 8 and keep that shape as your 6 and 7. Dylan Peach, if it was me, I'd put Paisami at 12 and put Joseph Kuso out to the wing. It was just it was a game of moments, and to be honest, without the moment of the interception for Joseph Akuso where he showed a great a great clean pair of heels, he probably would have been caught out deathly. Oh, sorry, I've lost myself there. Let me just get myself back. I'll keep talking. But yeah, so it's just it wasn't all it wasn't all fashionable, unfortunately, for the Wallabies, but it was a game of a game of moments. But what I will say, Harry, like and I've done this interview with you now because I'm very cognizant of your time and whatnot. But this is a game of moments that just happened to fall our way. You guys were about to score down one end, and then Tom Wright managed to reel in a ball and score down the other. Max Jorgensen just manages to peel off and score that try. Likewise, Tom Wright in midfield manages to beat the fold there between Jesse Creel and Kanan Moody, I believe it was, and then be able to steal through for the pass through to Harry Wilson. You need the X factor to be able to put yourself in those positions, which we had on the day. But there are very, very, very often the occasions where the Wallabies just don't manage to finish those opportunities off, and that's ultimately the difference. I don't think there was anything in the game overall that speaks to either side necessarily being. But the score didn't reflect how close that game was. It was a game of moments. But if you have any final takes, I'll take it now very quickly, Harry.
Yeah, I think what you're speaking to, I think there was a comprehensive and comfortable win for the Wallabies in the end, and I want to make sure I give full credit to that. But I understand your point that it turns because of our scoring system on a couple of things that could have gone either way. The difficult to replicate is the issue here. I've said that the Wallabies don't need to build their whole structure around scoring 30 points every time, because it's not tenable week in, week out. So that's not I don't see that happening next week, nor do I see it happening in the Bledisloe very easily. So I would turn to that period of time before halftime where the Wallabies defended without infringing and kept the Springboks out when it would have been 29-5, and 29-5 definitely starts to have that scoreboard pressure and makes the Boks really realize, hey, we are almost 30 points now. So like, let's not play like we're behind. The second thing is replicable for the Boks. I think for sure putting people in mismatch combinations and maybe trying to have impact from aging players like Bongi, Mostert, Kwacha isn't the best idea. Maybe it's about starting your experienced players and then having the young firebrands coming in off the bench who are, full of light and spice. So I think that's what we'll probably see. And quite frankly, I think the Wallabies have already accomplished their purpose. I think no matter what happens next week, they'll go away thinking we did a great thing. It was one of the great wins. It's been lauded all over the place. So they can almost play with freedom. So in a way, maybe that helps them as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it is a bit of a double-edged sword, but we have to wait and see, and we'll have to enjoy the week as Wallaby supporters, Springbok supporters. Hang in there. We've had plenty of dark days, so don't get too down. But Harry, I just want to thank you so much for coming along and breaking this down from a South African perspective. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Please enjoy the rest of your trip in South Africa. Maybe we'll catch up with you later, but enjoy Cape Town and go well, because rugby is doing great things at the moment. So thank you very much for coming along.
Cheers, John. Thanks, man.
And to all you guys, like, subscribe here on the 8-9 Combo and the Lekker podcast where you can find Harry. Thank you very much, guys. Take it easy and enjoy the week of rugby.